1045 The Team and 1045theteam.com. And joining us now, he covers the New York Jets for NJ.com, Connor Hughes. And make sure to give him a follow on Twitter. Connor with 2 N's _J_Hughes does a lot of great videos, updates, answers your questions via Periscope as well. And Connor, the biggest issue with the Jets this offseason could be the cap space that they have. What does that look like right now heading into the offseason?
Right now, it's bad, but it's only bad because they haven't made any corresponding moves yet to free additional cap space. The Jets going into this offseason were pretty well aware that they were a team that had a lot of guys on contracts that were coming towards the expendable years of those contracts. So, for example, when they gave them 3- and 4-year deals, they knew that they were only going to be on the team 2 years, and then they'd cut them on years 3 or year 4 to free the cap space. So right now, the Jets are like negative $7.4 million over the projected salary cap space, so they don't have any space. They have $7 million over it. However, once they start releasing some of these guys that everybody knows will be released, that's when they'll free a ton of cap space. So, for example, when Darrelle Revis is cut or restructures his contract, that'll free $9 million. If Brandon Marshall is let go, that'll free $7.5 million. If Nick Mangold's let go, I believe that frees $8.6 million. The Jets essentially are in a position here with a few moves and a few known and expected moves. They'll free upwards of $50 million in salary cap space. So right now, things look grim, things look bad. But once the Jets make the moves that they are expected to make, for example, Ryan Clady, who will free $10.5 million with his release, once they make those expected moves, they'll be fine with money.
Well, those guys you just listed off there, Darrelle Revis, Brandon Marshall, Ryan Clady, Nick Mangold, those are former All-Pros in the league. I'm not sure if you can find someone to replace those guys, at least that high quality, to bring into this franchise.
No, that's true. I mean, that's absolutely true because you're now in a situation where it's kind of fool's gold. You know, you're not talking about a team like the Cleveland Browns who has $70 or $97 million in salary cap space without cutting anybody, or a team like the Giants, even on a lesser standpoint, who have about $22 million in salary cap space, but they don't have to cut anybody. So the Jets have to cut these people in order to create the salary cap space, which they then need to go out there and replace these players. So that kind of diminishes the value of the money that they're freeing because, you know, you cut Ryan Clady and you free $10.5 million, but now you need to go out there and find a starting left tackle. How much are you going to have to pay him? Probably $8 million. So now by cutting Ryan Clady, you're really only freeing $2 million. So it is a little bit of the figure is going to look a little bigger than what it probably actually is, because the Jets are going to have to free these people by releasing them.
My co-host has a theory that because of how bad the NFL draft classes with quarterbacks and the lack of talent that's going to hit free agency this offseason, that the Jets might seriously have to consider bringing back Ryan Fitzpatrick. Is that even a possibility?
No, I know. That ship is so far sailed. I mean, Ryan realizes it. We talked to him about it last year. He pretty much said that, you know, the way this season's gone, I know what's going to happen. He knows he's going to be let go. The Jets know they're going to let him go. That's just, it's not going to happen. Ryan still wants to play. He still wants to play in the NFL. It's not like he's going to retire, but it's not going to be here with the Jets because it's with how bad things went last year, they can't bring him back. So that was a good year in 2015. They were right to bring him back in 2016 to see if he could replicate those stats, or replicate that production, but that's not going to happen. I would be extremely surprised if that were to happen.
All right, we'll go back, we'll grab that audio, and I'll play it for him on a loop over and over again this offseason, just in case he starts to think that maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick is coming back. It's Connor Hughes. He covers the New York Jets for NJ.com, joining us here on the phone lines on 1045theteam.com. And you touched on one of the big priorities is that they're going to have to cut guys to get back under that salary cap spot. But once those cuts are made, who's priority number one to bring back or to bring into the Jets franchise?
It's going to be a wait and see. I mean, it's going to kind of come down to how they evaluate the offensive line, how they evaluate the quarterback, how they evaluate the receiving class, because I know that this probably isn't the strongest offensive line class. So do the Jets feel like, all right, you know what, maybe we can't get a quality starter in the second round and we don't want to reach on a guy with the number 6 pick? So let's go out there and sign somebody. Let's go out there and acquire somebody in free agency, or maybe a trade like they did last year with Ryan Clady. Maybe we do that instead of, you know, trying to draft somebody. So it's going to come down to a lot of how they evaluate this draft class, where they want to go with the number 6 pick and the second and third round pick. I could see him going out there and signing, obviously, a quarterback. Mike Lennon's a possibility. Tyrod Taylor's a possibility, depending on the price. I could see him going out there and signing some offensive linemen. I could see him going out there and signing, or at least being involved in potentially Nick Perry, trying to go out and get him, the Green Bay Packers outside linebacker. Tremaine Johnson could be a free agent. He's a guy the Jets could go out there and get. The Bowie kid from Houston, he's a cornerback the Jets could go out there and get. They're going to have some money to spend, and they're going to have to spend it because they have to fill out this roster once they start cutting people. So we'll see exactly what they do.
Let's stick with that NFL draft talk because the Jets sit right there, the 6th overall pick, but ahead of them, San Francisco 49ers, they have a new offensive coordinator, new head coach, new whole basically franchise rebuilding there with John Lynch as the GM, and then also the Chicago Bears with questions of who's going to play quarterback for them going forward, and there's possibilities that they may draft a quarterback. Is it a realistic possibility that the Jets may have to move up if they want someone like a Deshaun Watson or a Mitch Trubisky?
If they want to ensure that they get themselves Deshaun Watson or Mitch Trubisky, yes. I mean, they're probably going to have to move up to either the 1 or 2 pick if they want to ensure that they get it. But I think the Jets are content. Unless I don't think the Jets are going to trade up in the draft. I just don't see it happening. I think that if Deshaun Watson or Mitch Trubisky falls to them, then they will legitimately consider drafting them and taking them, and they'll do their homework. They'll have their homework done, and they'll make the right decision or what they believe is the right decision for the franchise. But I don't think that they'll move up and because I mean, even to move from 6 to 1 is going to take a lot. I mean, look what the Eagles had to do to move from 8 to 1 last year when they traded up to get the Browns pick, and then traded up again to go up to or traded up to get the Dolphins pick at number 8, and then traded up again to go get number 1. I mean, they're going to have to give up some significant pieces. And this Jets team is not, 1 or 2 pieces away from competing. They have a lot of holes on this roster. They need a lot of help. They need help on the offensive line. They need help at linebacker, both outside and inside. They need a safety. They need cornerback. They need potentially a running back and receiver. They need a lot. They don't have the luxury of being able to trade away draft picks to go move up in the draft because they need all the draft picks they can get. So I think it's almost more likely that they trade down. Now, what I could see potentially happening is the Jets trading, say, like you mentioned, Deshaun Watson, say potentially Deshaun Watson starts slipping in the NFL draft, and he's there at pick 18, he's there at pick 19, he's there at pick 20. I could potentially see the Jets packaging a second-round pick, or packaging their second-round pick, a pick next year, and Sheldon Richardson to move back up into the first round to take a player that they like if he's sliding or slipping, maybe even Cam Robinson or an offensive lineman. So I don't think the Jets will trade up into the first round in terms of saying like getting the number 1 or number 2 pick, but I could see them trading back into the bottom end of the first to take a player they like.
Whoever may be the quarterback of the New York Jets going forward, they could be working with a coach by the name of Jeremy Bates, and we had a lot of fun about Jeremy Bates yesterday, hiking all these wild trails, being out of football for a while. Is it possible he's going to be the quarterback coach for the Jets, and if so, how in the world did they find this guy, and is he the right fit?
They like him. I mean, they like him. That's certainly the report that's out there right now, and they want to get it done. And it seems like when the Jets really like somebody, and they'll go out there and get it done. Now, this is obviously a different situation because Bates isn't this highly coveted prospect that the Jets are having to woo away from somebody else. He's there for the taking. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think when it comes to position coaches and quarterback coaches, it's so questionable on how they turn out, and all these guys were nobodies at some point, and then they made a name for themselves, and now they're coordinators and things of that nature. I mean, Kyle Shanahan wasn't exactly a coveted guy when he left Washington. I mean, he was considered one of the guys that was the reason for some of their offensive failures. Now look at him. He's the head coach of the 49ers. So this guy has had some success before. He was tremendous in Denver with Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall in the mid-2000s, and he has some experience with John Morton, who is the Jets' offensive coordinator now. So there are the connections there that you can connect the dots and say, okay, this is how he matches up. He's got some experience running a West Coast offense. He's got some experience developing young, strong-arm quarterbacks a la Cutler. So we'll see what ends up happening. Now, I think that it is a little bit of a red flag that he was fired after just a year with Seattle, that he just didn't mesh or couldn't get going with Russell Wilson. But we'll see what happens. I mean, at this point with the Jets, they are not a highly coveted position. They are not. Their offense is not something that people are saying, yeah, I want to go work for the Jets. So they've kind of got to think outside the box a bit, which is what they did with John Morton. And if they end up hiring Bates and making it official, it's what they'll be doing with him.
Make sure to follow his stuff on Twitter at Connor_J_Hughes. He covers the Jets for NJ.com. Connor Hughes. Connor, thank you so much for the time, man. We'll catch up again in the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me.